questions will also be that really covers over to you.
Comrade Bule, can everybody, can they mute themselves, please?
Province. Can I request
Refilwe,
that
please mute yourself.
When Sis Lindy speaks, the camera faces her. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Refilwe, can you mute? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Bule, and thank you for the opportunity to present via this platform. I did have a tooth problem, so I had to come and see my doctor, and I would not have reached Johannesburg on time. I want to say briefly, this is probably the third time that we will be presenting to conference our social transformation resolutions after a whole 5 years of discussion, and ours possibly together with that of immigration and police have met the longest, because we have burning issues on a regular basis in the sphere of social transformation. Briefly, these are the issues that we put forward at the last policy conference, and we have taken time to monitor progress. We meet every second week as a social transformation committee and go through what it is that we had promised we were going to attend to and see how far we've gone. Number one, we have noted that on gender violence, it has begun to rear its ugly head, and the Women's League in particular, we're vociferous about the measures we should take. One of them was possibly at the last conference, the issue of gender violence had become so critical that the Women's League had proposed that one of the measures we could possibly consider was chemical castration, to which half the people in the conference roared with agitation and anger. So that one was put aside, but I'm putting it to you as one of the solutions that we had thought would be a solution that would take us forward. When you look at the statistics I'm going to give you now of gender-based violence, rape, and all of those things, and the killing of women, then you realize that we are on the precipice of a real crisis. We need to do something about it. There has been a growth, especially of aggravated rape that is perpetrated on minors. This, as you know, in the conference did not win the support of the conference, and so we did not take up this notion of providing people who are constant offenders with the necessary solution for rape. And therefore, as we speak now, rape and gender-based violence are on a serious increase in our country. Women demanded, secondly, a greater representation in all spheres of government and everywhere. And I'm glad to report that we're making progress in that regard. And we are at possibly 34% in government and various other areas. And we're hoping we will reach our 50%. And we also believe that when women put their minds to doing things, they do it better than men. Apologies to that men in the room, but that is a scientific truth. We were abhorred by the level of discrimination against women at the workplace. We put together some measurements of how we would measure and overcome these. But unfortunately, these didn't work because they fall within the sphere of yet another subcommittee which deals with with the work environment. Now that we learn that we have not been able to measure this, it will be one of those issues that we will be discussing in the forthcoming policy conference. How do we measure that, in fact, women are making progress in the public sector, in the area of work? We dealt with a whole lot of social ills. Sadly, these have not abated. On the rise is drug abuse, on the rise is murder, on the rise is all sorts of unseemly things. We've even come across an increased number of human trafficking. And this is concentrated on women and young women. And together with the Minister of Police, by the time we get to the policy conference, we will have worked out how we deal with this matter. At the base of this is drug abuse. The women are drugged and thereafter trafficked to other areas for whatever purpose that they may be used for. In the area of job creation, there's a way we believe that we could make sure that all South Africans were gainfully employed and that they felt valued. We will measure this coming conference whether this is indeed the case. Most of the social problems persist and have outpaced that which we were confronted with. So our social ills have grown instead of abated, and this is causing us a great deal of stress. We meet almost every second week to deal with some of the issues that confront us, but these are not just restricted to us in social transformation. We're hoping to have a session with the police, social security cluster, and with the immigration cluster to see how we can deal with some of the problems that confront us in the area of women. Significantly, we've had a presentation. We had a presentation on the Integrity Committee because it falls under us in social transformation. And the Integrity Committee had complained that they were not being taken seriously. So we made a presentation and took a resolution that their limitations and their powers, their limitations would be removed and their powers would be increased. And we made a recommendation to strengthen their mandate. They are now working. Hopefully their mandate has been strengthened. They report through the SG to the ANC. And these, in short, are what we had agreed to in the last policy conference. I'm giving you this background so that you are able to contextualize where we are right now. Let me begin by thanking all of you for having taken time out of your busy schedules to join us as we table our social transformation discussion document for the African National Congress National Policy Conference taking place at the end of this month. In fact, 3 days from now. We are happy that the National Policy Conference is taking place during the Mandela Month, a period that the world has dedicated towards honoring and celebrating the good work of Nelson Mandela, his peers, and everything that he stood for, that which was pioneered, which has been pioneered and has gone towards making and building a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic South Africa. The National Policy Conference gives us an opportunity to make self-introspection, assess the strengths and weaknesses of our organization, of our policies, and the policies we have adopted, how far have we gone in implementing them, etc. And to reimagine a better strategy and a better future through new approaches that will hasten and create speedy realization of the aspirations of our people. We've measured what we agreed on at the last policy conference, and we have been able to measure how far we've gone, and we've been very proud of ourselves in the stand we have taken in relation to gender-based violence. 2 years ago, the people of Cape Town marched onto Parliament to come and demand that we do something around the issue of the death of the young lady from UCT who was murdered by a post office worker. And the streets were just full of very angry people. We made a decision there with the president that this is our responsibility and we will deal with it. We have subsequently met with the people who were marching, and we're hoping that this is something that we can do on a regular basis. We are here as a policy conference for people to come to when they have a problem around the way that society has not changed and around the way that women are continuously threatened, the way that women are continuously abused, the way that women are continuously raped, and they still remain an underdog so many days, so many years after we had got onto the new constitution. The constitution that we adopted was a constitution, of course, that was negotiated, but chief amongst those things that we wanted to put there was to make sure that the living conditions of our people, poverty, unemployment, and the enduring inequality in our society is something that we put to the back of our minds. Unfortunately, we still live with it. Added on to that is spiraling crime, electricity backgrounds, and many other matters that are really taking us back. You know, South Africa has been looked upon by the rest of the African continent as a model country because of the struggle that we have undertaken and because of the morality of the ANC. We stand head and shoulders above them and they look up to us. But when they see what is happening in our country, they're as affected as we are. How could this happen to a country that had learned from all of us, a country that we'd given so much support to, and a country that we'd given so much hope for? So at all times, we should be very mindful of the fact that we don't only represent ourselves as we do all of these things, we represent other people who look to us to see how they too can get to the level of development that they believe we have achieved. In spite, however, of these challenges, we remain convinced that the darkness forbears light and that South Africa is fully blessed to emerge victorious out of trying times. The victory of Banyana Banyana at the 22 Women's World Cup Nations tournament gives us hope that victory against all societal problems is certain, but only if we commit to put our shoulders to the deck. And at this point, Comrade Chair, I thought there would be a rousing applause on the Banyana Banyana. They have done us so proud. But there is deafening silence on your side, or is it because you have muted yourselves? But I would like us from this moment to find a way in which we can really, truly give gratitude to these people who put us in this particular position. We're very proud of them. The social transformation discussion document, which we'll be giving out, which is this that I'm tabling now, will be one that is used at the policy conference. It is a culmination of a long policy development process. We meet almost every second week. Sometimes it is on matters that have directly to do with us. Sometimes it is on matters that have to do with rising poverty and all of those things. We are almost at the cross section of all of these things. When anything goes wrong, it is our society that suffers. So we find ourselves meeting very often. And at this point, I'd like to thank the Deputy Chair of the Social Transformation Committee, who has held the process together whenever I have been away. But we have been hard at work trying to make sure we can solve most of the problems that we are confronted with. We're confronted with very horrific problems that we are putting across to society through yourselves so that we are able to solve them together. One of the things that worries us is teenage pregnancy. A recent report indicates that child pregnancies, which is indicated in this report, indicates that the highest number of childhood pregnancies anywhere in the world. Between the year 2021 and 2022, 90,000 teenage pregnancies were recorded. And I'd like to indicate to you, these were not pregnancies from one teenage boy to one teenage girl. Most of them were pregnancies that were from adults to teenage girls. We must do something to protect our young girls. We cannot have this kind of scourge on the children that are growing up and on which we build all our hopes to take forward. Hunger and poverty have grown. So has landlessness. As a society, as our society grows, so does its problems. That is natural. But we need to gear ourselves up. Together with yourselves, we need your support. Half the time, we find that the media is very much at the forefront of criticizing what government does, as opposed to saying, we're in this together. How can we help you? This is what we have discovered can be done. This is what we discovered is done in another country. This is what can help us. Because on our own, it has proved very difficult because we are, all of us, involved in very many other things. But you have a bird's view of what is happening in our country, and we would be very glad to hear from you what your views are so that we can include them in our resolutions. We want to make sure that the whole of South Africa is engaged in the problems that we experience, and all of South Africa is committing ourselves to make sure that we can put some of these problems behind us. We present this document on the back of distressing events which highlight deep social issues that we face. A recent report was revealed that between 2021 and 22, as I've indicated, thousands of pregnancies were recorded. And these were recorded of children between 10 and 19, 10-year-old children falling pregnant from older men in our country. This is not just an issue of teenage pregnancy, but speaks to sexual abuse and statutory rape as adults impregnated many of these young girls. We have also lost 21 young people who died in a tavern in East London, signifying a shortage of safe recreational facilities for our young people, and the growing levels of substance abuse, shootings in Cape Town attributed to gangsterism and a regular growing occurrence. A 14-month-old baby is fighting for his life in hospital after gunmen pumped bullets into his family vehicle in what is believed to have been a gang-related attempt hit over this past weekend in Cape Town. The killing of Nontokozo Caroline Butlung, a 27-year-old South African lesbian who was brutally murdered and mutilated, is a suspected homophobic killing just a few weeks ago. It reminds us of the scourge of hate crimes and the vulnerability of the LGBTI people. I'd like you as members of the media to please pay attention to this. Some of these matters we rely on you to assist us to teach society about how we feel about some of these things and how we can be a better society. We cannot be a better society with a whole liturgy. I'm dealing with social transformation, and so far, all I have dealt with are the problems of how we should be where we are, not how we are going to get to where we want it to be. We base ourselves on the Freedom Charter, and we are very far from achieving most of those things that we committed ourselves to. Our perspective on social transformation. The agenda is part of the continuing journey of social change that began in the form of the Freedom Charter, as I've indicated, and the Reconstruction and Development Program, through which the ANC sought to build a better life for all. At the center of this journey of social change is a march towards a truly reconstructed, transformed, unified, and developed South Africa, alongside the radical economic transformation of our economy. This is part of our agenda. The social clusters agenda seeks to ensure radical social transformation as well, aimed at ending oppression, poverty, inequality, abuse of young women, and creating a society in which all belong and live freely and prosper. The strategic objective of social transformation is to transform our society and build a new society that is peaceful, equal, and just as envisioned in the National Development Plan, the AU Agenda 2030, and Africa's Agenda 2063. Our focus is to prioritize the rights of women because they're the most vulnerable, the rights of children and people living with disabilities, as well as the previously disadvantaged people, which are Black people in their broadest definition. We work tirelessly to reduce the discrimination, violence against women, and discrimination and violence against children, and discrimination against those people who do not have quite the physical fitness that we have and are therefore disadvantaged in one way or another. At the center of building a new society is the need to address socio-economic inequalities. These are the world's talking point. There is a picture that is often shown about South Africa, and it is taken in Cape Town. It is taken between a place that used to be N2 Gateway program before we upgraded it, and the richer side of Cape Town. There is another picture that is taken of Masiphumelele and the rich area next to it. And there is a clear sign of the deep inequalities that our society is still steeped in. We've got to find a way in which we can get beyond this. This is not what we fought for. We did not fight to come back and continue in the same way while people live in splendor and whatever it is, and other people still live in deep poverty. This is not, it's not us, it's not what we fought for, it is not what is in the Freedom Charter, it is not what is in our constitution. We want to build a new society that is peaceful, that is equal, just as was envisaged in many of our documents. Our focus is to prioritize the rights of women because they are the most vulnerable, the rights of children, the rights of people with disabilities, as well as the rights of people of the LGBTQI who have separate preferences to ours. They have rights too. Those rights are no less than the rights that we have. We want to work tirelessly to reduce discrimination and violence against women, discrimination and violence against children. We want to make sure that our children are free from drug peddlers who use our children in schools and elsewhere to perpetrate their trade. At the center of building a new society is the need to address socio-economic inequalities, which breeds social ills, such as high levels of violence, gender-based violence, femicide, including misuse of alcohol and drugs. This task includes protecting vulnerable people and communities who are subjected to discrimination based on their gender, the race, and class. If you measure how far we have gone since we got in our independence or got to our democracy, about how far we have gone in changing our society, you will find that very little has changed. What has changed is that a slither of those who are able to make it have graduated to those who have the means to make their lives better, and the rest of us depend on government making our lives better. And we are not able to cope with the backlog that we have inherited, and it grows as people come from the rural areas seeking better opportunities in the urban areas. This has become such a crisis that if you go around Cape Town, you actually find that along the road, people are selling self-made tin houses. So you can buy a house, go buy a house, put it on a bakkie and go and put it somewhere. This is not the kind of society that we are looking for. We want to make sure that everything is done properly. We do not want informality, because informality does not breed the kind of dignity. We would like to make sure that we can provide the housing that we promise them in the Freedom Charter at a pace that is as rapid as possible. If I had it my way, we would not spread out the budget in the way that we do. We would actually have priority areas. We would have priority areas to say, if we stop this, if people live better, will they not behave better? If we provide them with houses and water and all of those essential things, would they not make better citizens? However, it is not my terrain to comment on how we allocate resources, but we need to pay particular attention to the most vulnerable who still live in shacks. The responsibility towards youth. Can I continue? Yes, okay. The responsibility towards youth is to nurture them, to grow as responsible citizens, to engage them in sporting and cultural activities, and focus on their growth in terms of education, skills, and development. We would like to find a situation where every young person is at school. And those who cannot afford school, the government should make sure that that is provided for. Because we will only get to the levels of development when all of us have a certain level of education. Nobody should be outside of school for any reason whatsoever. There is a need to intensify focus on women empowerment. While the ANC has made some important progress in the public sector in this matter, There is need to ensure more improvement, especially in the private sector. There's a handful of females in the private sector, and I'm not sure whether these females made it on their own or made it on the back of support from males, but we would want women to make it on their own and own the means of production. And therefore, we are wanting to ensure that we can support these women in the private sector to reach their zenith without feeling that they owe anybody anything. We need to continue to fight against violence against women and sexual violence in particular, as I've indicated. This is the bottom line. Violence against women, violence against children, impregnating children, human trafficking. Those are just so contrary to what we fought for, so contrary to the Freedom Charter. It is shocking. But most of African prisoners in other countries, Brazil, you name it, come from South Africa. And these would have been lured by people not South Africans to carry through some drugs to some place or other. We need to protect our people from this. We need to continue the responsibility against patriarchal beliefs and tendencies that continue to suppress and oppress women. Women are equal to anybody. And if you allow me to say this without offending anybody, if you want the best person to do a job, get a woman. This is shown in the home, this is shown in the workplace, this is shown wherever women are given the opportunity. We've got to stop suppressing them, because we're suppressing an energy, we're suppressing a talent that would take us forward. We need to continue to fight against violence and sexual abuse and escape all other degrading conditions of poverty. There's a need to improve the implementation of the integrated human settlements, as I have indicated earlier on, and we need to make sure that we can fast-track the backlog in providing them with security of tenure. The ANC is a glorious liberation movement whose armed Dwayne Umkhonto Sizwe played an important role in the liberation of the people of South Africa and needs to improve the living conditions of military veterans through the implementation of various policies and programs. These are people who gave up their young lives to go and fight for you and I to be here, and they remain one of the most marginalized. We've got to make sure that we can change their circumstances. We have an ongoing duty to help the ANC achieve social cohesion, and we've invited the media so that they can be part and parcel of our drive to see how we can get social cohesion, how we can make sure that when a Black child goes to a white school and is the only Black child there, he or she is treated like one of the others. There is a lot of work that we still need to do. And we call the media because we would like to have a special focus on some of these things. If we're going to have nation building, we start with eradicating the discrimination that most people have lived with. It doesn't come easy if people have grown up in a particular way. And therefore we rely on the media to assist us to do this. And one day, hopefully, the color of the skin of anybody will not matter at all. In this journey of creating cohesive society, the ANC remains tasked with the duty of defeating this evil called racism in all its manifestation. Sometimes it is nuanced racism, but you can feel we still suffer from a great deal of racism in this country. I think that if I were to stray into somebody else's territory, I would say no school should be registered unless they have 50-50 Black and white students, because it is only in that age that people are able to relate to others. Children are a very open-minded people, and they don't even know what color is. We impose color on the children. But if we make sure that they grow up together in the schools, I am certain that we will have a better future in 10 years' time. But we must do something about wanting to create a rich heritage for our people. It starts with our children. Cohesive society, it starts with our children. We reaffirm the observation made by the 54th conference that overall ANC policy is in place. We've got all the policies in place. But We might want to adjust some, we might want to refine some, but the policy we have is aimed at changing and shifting societal demands, societal views, and the key task is ensuring the accurate implementation of these policies. We've got the most wonderful policies, but I think what we should do now going forward is actually measure how far have we gone in implementing those policies. To this end, the Social Transformation Discussion document outlines the resolutions that we adopted in the 54th National Conference, and it provides progress reports in the implementation of these resolutions and proposes corrective action plans where there are challenges, and the document ends with the new policy proposal and questions that require further discussion at the National Policy Conference. And we would like you to please refer to our discussion document and be able to find these there and be able to take us forward. We're very proud of the fact that in our time, we were able to conceptualize and put forward the idea of a basic income grant. We're still working on this, but the 350 social relief grant came from social transformation, and we're very happy that it did have the desired effect that it had. We're now wanting to interrogate the basic income grant and see if our economy is able to take that and if there is a buy-in from society. The social relief fund of 350 helped our people enormously during the time of COVID. We want to enhance our human settlements policies, and there is a whole section on that, on how we can do that. And we would like to shift from government dependency to people renting their houses, rent to buy, building their own houses. I think if we gave land, if we prioritize the giving of land and making sure that that land is looked after and it is not overtaken by other people, we might get to a better place, but I am not sure right now. Our people have become so used to being provided by government everything that they need. We will need very slowly to indicate to them that there are certain things that they can do themselves. And some of the issues that we propose here are those issues that we think will help them. We want mandatory provision of land by every municipality, targeted and making sure that there can be housing. And we want to make sure that the beneficiaries of housing can be put out in the same way as we do with the matric results, can be put out in your newspaper so everybody knows what plot is allocated to what individual. And we would like the police to monitor these projects for us so that we're able to provide a house for every family. Now, there's some questions for discussion which we're going to put forward. Despite the ANC's Rapid Human Settlements Development Program, we have not been able to arrest the housing backlog and urbanization. And as I indicated earlier, what is shown in the international stage is that area of Cape Town, where on one side you have informal settlements, and on the other side you have the most plush homes you can find anywhere in the world. This is not what we fought for. We need to find a way in which we can rapidly get beyond this. But rapidly getting beyond this also means intensive education of our people. A house is an asset that government gives to every person. Now, our people, because of their poverty levels, are very attracted to selling their houses. We built a housing development called Cosmos City. It took us 10 years in the Constitutional Court to get that land. Finally, we got that land and we built houses there. It is now almost a town. If any of you have not been there, please take time to go there. It has all the amenities that you would want in a small town. However, because it is called Cosmos City, and because we named the streets after African leaders, the language of the people who live there is not Sotho or Zulu or Xhosa or any South African language. These houses have now been to foreign nationals. We're going to find a way of reversing this. And at the moment, I don't sitting on my chair now, I cannot indicate how we can do this, but this is one of the things we want to discuss in our social transformation. Some of our water resources are plagued by pollution. while distribution of water to some communities is hamstrung by corruption. There is a great deal of corruption in water. The Auditor General has pointed this out to us and was working on that, and we were assisting him to work on that. We put together a committee of eminent people, consisting of people who worked in the environment before, professors and other eminent people, to assist us clear the corruption in the water space. But that has been thrown out of the window. It is a pity, because if we don't deal with corruption at the core of those things that are vital for us, we will not be getting anywhere. Social amenities must be made available for every community in every municipality. And when I'm talking about social amenities, I'm not talking about the stadium in Queenstown. Proper social facilities that can pass the test of all scrutiny, so that our people have recreational facilities, so that our people have community halls, so that our youth have somewhere to go and interact and be normal children like in any other country. We want to make sure that we have a pool of youth who can be drawn into work. There was a time when a number of us suggested that we have public works consisting largely of youth. It fell by the wayside. There was a time when I suggested that some of the youth could go into special training in the Defense Force, and I was thought to be really crazy. But what it does do, when you put our young people into some institution, they develop a sense of pride in themselves. They have ownership of some kind of something that will take them through. There is an environment that protects them. There's an environment in which they can grow with their peers. And I don't know how we are able to deal with this matter, but we must deal with it to take our people, our young people, away from drugs, crime, and other social ills. We must provide an alternative for them to attend. Gender-based violence and femicide are a calamity in our society. I've already said that, and we need to do something about that. The proposal that was given by the Women's League has been rejected, so I'm hoping that out of this conference, there will be some other way in which we can find a way of dealing with violence against women. Our women in this country need to feel secure. Our women in this country are equal to any, and given the opportunity, never mind. Corruption, crime, poverty, and unemployment has restricted South Africans' enjoyment of the gains achieved since 1994. Crime and violence have dominated South Africa's transformation since 1994. High crime rates cause widespread feelings of insecurity and fear, which undermine popular confidence in ourselves, and etc., etc. We have all sorts of things that are happening in our country, which in a normal country would not be allowed, where we have organized syndicates, and we know that that is gangs 27, or that is gang that, and drugs are freely available through syndicates, all of them infiltrating into our educational institution, corruption of our youth, corruption in the public sector, corruption everywhere. The police have not been able to address the spiraling wave of crime due to inadequate resources. And it's not just the police responsibility. Everybody who is born has a parent. We, as parents, must make sure we can protect our children from these ills to the extent that is possible. We need to find a manifesto that all adults should abide by. I have a child, and I will make sure that I do this and this and this to protect my child from any ill, because it is our responsibility to bring up our children. It would bring up our children in the society that I've outlined here. What hope do we have of having a better future for them, of having a better future for this country? The eradication of racism is enshrined in the Constitution and finds expression in policy and legislative spaces. However, instances of the prevalence of racism continue, and all of us know that. And there is subliminal racism that you might not put your finger on, but all of us know we have not dealt with the issue of racism. We have not dealt with the issue of a superior species and an inferior species. And where these combine, and you're a woman, and you're Black, it makes life unbearable. And all of you know that. We're counting on you as members of the media to be with us. We have to change our society.